all I had here was a 3-bedroom ranch, and now it's 2 1-bedroom units. That has raised the value of the house tremendously. Plus, it pays all my expenses every month. So just from that one transaction, even if I didn't do anything else ever, I can live for free.
All right, Christine, we made it to the call. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. So nice to be here, Neil.
You know how life hits those little bit of technical glitches. It's always, we run into it no matter whether we try to or not in this very advanced world, trying to get on here to have this convo today. But we made it. We persevered. We overcame.
Yes.
So it's great to have you here, Christine. I want you to give me some insights into what you're doing today, what you're working on, and what your current focus is. And then we can maybe dive into your background a little bit and stuff and kind of connect all those dots.
So this is, I'm willing to bet that none of your other guests are doing this. I'm teaching basically middle-aged and older women how to do house hacking.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't have anybody that's been on LinkedIn. So that's exactly why you're here, because there are folks who are going to listen and they're going to resonate with us 100%. So let's dig into that a little bit by going back in time. Go to the Wayback Machine for a second and give me a little bit of history as to how you got into doing this.
Well, I'm a real estate agent. So the whole piece about real estate is kind of, I guess, pretty understandable. But I've found that, I mean, in my own quest, I'm also a middle-aged and above type person, single woman, and have been able to find my own success in house hacking in various ways, Airbnb and, just taking a single family house and turning it into multiple, 2-family in this case. And doing just the ease that I have found from that. And I think when especially like maybe a single woman who's maybe newly single, maybe the kids are now out of the house, she's recently divorced, or the husband's no longer in the picture in some way or other. And they're just feeling like, I don't have the money I want to have. Like maybe I have a good career or whatever, but I want to have more passive income. I'm thinking maybe that I want to stop working at some point, and I just don't know how I'm going to do that. And when you start talking about real estate investing, they're thinking, oh man, I'm not going to be fixing toilets at 2 a.m. That's not going to be right. That's the paradigm that a lot of people have, right? I have to save $2 million and I have to buy this gigantic building. I'm going to have all kinds of hassles, but it doesn't have to be like that.
What is it like? Give us a perspective on what somebody would do to kind of get going. Like, how did you get started? Did you borrow your own money? Did you borrow money? Did you use your own cash? Like, how did you get your first things done?
Well, the whole idea behind what I think of as a true sort of house hack is that you already own the property. So these people probably already be homeowners, but their house is not an asset, right? People think, oh, it's an asset, but from the Robert Kiyosaki perspective, it's not an asset because it's just costing them money every single month. And to be able to flip that around and say, okay, how is this house going to start paying me every month? And one option is to subdivide the home, right? So all I had here was a 3-bedroom ranch, and now it's 2 1-bedroom units, and one of them is rented on Airbnb and the other one I live in. And that has raised the value of the house tremendously. Plus, it pays all my expenses every month. So just from that one transaction, even if I didn't do anything else ever, I can live for free.
That is a tremendous tip for those who are listening. If you're not paying it, if you have that opportunity. And you said something really good. I like the house hacking phrase. Let's come back to that in a minute because that sounds unique to me in the way you say that. And I think I understand the concept of course, of where you're going. But it sounds like you deal in short-term rentals for not just yourself, but obviously you build or buy houses in which you kind of do the same thing now, but you started at an individual level who literally started renting out a component of your house, which now pays for the house itself. So you're kind of living rent-free in your own house, if I heard you correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nothing better than that.
Super, super smart for anybody who's listening to what she just said. So in terms of the house hacking, and you actually said something else in that phrase just a minute ago that I think is important for people to understand. Your house is not an asset. If you actually go through the business of understanding how that works, you have to understand that banks don't lend money to people just to lend money. There's no money to be made in that. So your house is the median asset, a product, okay, that they use to lend and sell that money, a product they can either revalue, devalue, or move into the market, or literally repossess and sell it to somebody else if you default on your loan for the product you have. So I always think it's interesting that people don't understand that concept. It's a very basic principle of finances. For homeowners that you should understand that. So what does that do to your mind and I think this is what you're sort of unlocking here, and I love it, is that your asset should be utilized it should turn itself into an asset. So how do people turn that home into an asset? What's the 3 steps or 10 steps or 2 steps, or give us like the next steps, because you left a big door here for us to walk through. Let's walk through it.
Well, and there are as many. I actually interviewed somebody from my own podcast yesterday, and what she does is she's basically turned her house into a residential living community for seniors who can't live alone anymore. A person with a private room is paying her $4,000 a month. In a shared room, each person is paying her $3,000 a month. So you can have, I guess, up to 5 people living in your home with this, license that takes like 12 hours to get. And right. So
is it like a mini residential
like a mini
home?
nursing home.
It's like a mini. Is she a registered nurse or something? Is she a medical professional?
She's not. She's a business major.
So who takes care of the people?
Well, all she does, she feeds them. People feed. She has somebody come in the afternoon, also not a nurse, to feed the people. They can bring their meds to them and say, here, it's time to take your meds, and stand there and make sure they do it, but they can't put them in their mouth. But so the people always have to have some functioning. They have to be able to function somewhat, but they just can't live alone anymore. So, you just need somebody who can throw them in the shower and, just play games with them and have fun with them.
Maybe she has an LPN or a licensed practitioner or something that comes in.
Not even. You can be a regular old person. Yep.
I have never heard of that before. I mean, I understand.
Me neither.
Obviously.
That's what I'm like, what?
I get the concept of value there, because if it's a smaller community for the individuals who are going to get to know each other at that, 5-person level, they're also going to feel a bit of privacy. They're going to feel a little bit less like they're in an institution and more like they're kind of living sort of on their own in a place where they can communally live. I see the value in that from the emotional perspective from them, from a value.
Well, even the nicest
unique
nursing homes, are pretty, there's only so much people can do, right? The staff, there's only so much you can do. But if you've got 5 people.
They look like the elementary schools we went to. They're bland. They're baseless walls with tile floors, and they're just ugly. Yeah, usually, like there's no. I mean, if she has a place, and I'm going to assume at this point that she has a nice place or a nicer place, and that has colors and like flooring and doesn't look like an institutional, psychic ward, which is where some of these things are, then there's a huge value for those folks.
Absolutely, and you figure if you're making $20,000 a month from your roommates, basically,
well, that's an interesting way to put it.
A pretty decent place, right?
And they probably won't destroy the place like
exactly.
other people who might be younger.
Some other
but we're not discriminating. We're just talking about profiling. It's a different level of conversation. Yeah, no, this is fascinating. Okay, so is that something? I mean, is that something you teach on, or is that just something that you discovered yesterday in your podcast with this lady?
Yeah, it's just so what I teach on is. You need to figure out, like, how are you going to hack your house, right? What can you do? Are you going to want to buy a multifamily? You absolutely don't want to live with people. Could you turn your personal residence into a multifamily?
Yeah.
And what's your comfort level? I know people who are sort of artistic and they love meeting new people. And so they've just renting bedrooms in their home to people on Airbnb or some other, VRBO, whatever. And they love the interaction, they love just meeting people from all over the world. And
it's very clever. I've heard of the other model slightly different than that one that I know somebody was doing, in which they had a little extra property based on the way their home and location was set up. And they went and bought one of those $8,000 fully furnished, ready to go mobile houses that are construction built really well. And it was furnished and everything inside with a micro kitchen and all that stuff. And they stuck that on their property and they started short-term rentaling it, which is now paying for all their house and utilities. So it's another sort of slightly different spin on that. I think they had at least an acre, so they weren't sitting right on top of people, and it was a nice setup, and people could easily access it in and out. And they basically shorted it into a rental property, an Airbnb rental property. Just a lot of clever ways to hack houses.
Absolutely. I know people who don't have anything of their own. They rent land on someone else's property, and they put a tent up, and they rent the tent on Airbnb. Okay, so that's like, all you need for that is ingenuity.
A tent on Airbnb. Now, that's actually a new one for me. I didn't recognize that.
Oh, Neil, you should research how much it costs to rent a tent on Airbnb.
Are we talking, okay, because you said tent, and all of a sudden, I'm thinking like a Walmart 4-person tent. We're not talking about that, right? I mean, are we talking about like like a glamping tent, like a serious glamping style tent thing? Or are we like talking about something I bought from Walmart?
I would say it's a step below glamping. None of them have running water. None of them have, you're using some sort of porta potty-ish type of situation, but yeah, yeah. I don't think I would call it really glamping. It's definitely camping, but it's like a canvas soft-sided tent. And they're getting up here in Vermont, they're getting like $125 a night.
That's incredible for that level. And I guess there's adventures to be had. I suppose that makes a lot of sense. My wife brought this up the other day about going camping, and I was like, well, we have to get the tents out and do all this other stuff. And she's like, I think I just want like a quicker thing. Can we go do the glamping style stuff, like where we are in the Ozark Mountains? They have some of that over near Branson, where you can rent the little places short term and go in and do a slight variation of camping, glamping kind of thing. And I'm like, well, that might actually be kind of fun with 4 kids. It's a big effort to do the
exactly. You don't want to get
camping
this gargantuan tent, right?
Oh, it was such a big deal when we went as kids because it was a big deal. It was like food and all this stuff and set your tents up and all of camping in its original form. Which, wasn't always fun for Mom because she did a lot of cooking and stuff. It was a lot more work, but we enjoyed it as kids. It was a labor of love. That's basically what it ended up being. But okay, so hacking your house, finding something that, that you can do if you've got a 3-bedroom and you're a single person or whatnot, you could rent one of those rooms out short term. I love that idea. What's something else you're working on, or maybe how can people get a hold of you to talk about camping, glamping, and house hacking?
Well, the way I'm helping people with that actually is through an online course.
Okay.
And I love that idea. I already did an online course just for first-time home buyers because there's just so much, terminology and so much stuff. And if you screw things up, that's a big investment.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. And that's kind of the thing that I'm working on now is like, what else can I do a course on? Hey, this will be,
Yeah.
And one for first-time investors.
Okay. Now, what is it, for yourself, are you investing in other properties? Are you getting more doors? Like what are you doing this year to kind of level up what you've been working on for the last year?
It seems to me that right now in the market, it's not a great time for residential, at least not in the Boston area where I am. Stuff's really high. And, as interest rates start to creep up, the prices are going to, it just doesn't seem like a great time to buy. Bidding wars, all that stuff, and I'm not the type to like go knock on your door and say, hi, would you like to sell your house? That's not my thing. So I'm thinking it's a really good time to buy commercial real estate because of COVID. There are a lot of pretty good sized spaces that are coming on the market that are, I think, really reasonably priced. So I'm looking at you can think of it as like a commercial space hack where I'm going to buy, I'm looking at a 6,000 square foot commercial space and I'm going to turn it into individual shared space offices.
That's a very smart idea. Now, if you could figure out how to cross commercial model with hacking your house somehow, maybe you could balance that out between like put a tent inside the commercial building and then put it short-term rental. Like maybe you could switch I don't know. I'm thinking out there.
Well, the reason I say it's sort of like I'm like doing a hacking because it's not going to be, I'm not going to start a gigantic company that needs 6,000 square foot space, right? I'm going to rent it out to, WeWork. Do you have that?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's going to be that sort of a model. So there'll be some areas where you can just grab a stool and you're going to just sit there. I really want it to be a real community. But the other thing I'm going to do with it is offer the option. I'm going to create it as a co-op. And the co-op model basically means that if you buy into this co-op, you can own your own space, but you're also going to be sharing the revenues from the shared space. Very
clever. That's a smart model.
Yeah. So I think it could be I think I can, take double my money out pretty quickly. And then after that, we're just all kind of in there doing our thing, sharing the proceeds from that.
That's very unique what you're doing. And that model is very well served in areas of urban communities like you're doing, which is great. Not so much where I'm in, where there's 1,900 people and, there's a lot of Amish around here. They're not really into offices. But they are into camping, although that gives me some ideas I hadn't thought about just now. I wonder if I could do some Amish-based camping short-term rentals. There's a crossover market waiting for me there. I just got to figure it out. Chris, this has been a great convo. You're a lot of fun, and I enjoy this conversation. And for folks who want to check out what she's doing, if you're interested in how to rent camps, if you're a single lady who wants to hack your house and determine how to pay for your bills, I would encourage you to check her out. And if you're in the Boston area and it sounds like you might want to get into some co-op space and stuff, you definitely want to hit up Chris and talk about what she's doing. Any final words of wisdom here as we kind of wrap things up?
No, just, think out of the box, right? Just think out of the box. I know your folks do that already. They're already fun entrepreneurs and people who are successful, but there are some things that we just take for granted. You don't question. But if you start to question, you say, well, why, look like Uber, right? So why do I have to call a taxi? Why can't I rate this guy and tell him everybody's a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Think out of the box, and who knows where you'll end up.
Well, I'm off to go see if I can't put up some glamping tents on Airbnb here where I live. Thank you.
You would be surprised, Neil. You're gonna call me in like a year and say, Chris, that was so amazing. I'm making so much money, and I'm just sitting here
you got me
people
thinking
camp.
now. It's crazy. I might have to play off the whole Ozarks thing, right? Come be a part of the Ozarks episode or something. I don't know, because we live out in the Ozarks, and everybody talks about the Ozarks. And do you know about the Ozarks? I'm like, I'm not in that Ozarks. Like, we're not drug running over here, whatever. But thanks for taking some time with me today. I appreciate it.
Neil, thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you.
It's been fun. Take care.